He used to fix machines for a living. Then the system broke him instead. When Terrence Mitchell was sentenced to life in prison for a crime he didn't commit, the courtroom lights dim on a life that should have been ordinary. Sunday barbecues, long drives with music too loud, nights spent working under the hood of old cars. But fate has a strange sense of irony, because in the place built to bury him, Terrence would become the man who solved his own case and proved the truth no one else cared to find. It started in 2001 in St. Louis, Missouri. A robbery gone wrong at a corner liquor store left one man dead. The clerk, Samuel Ortiz. Witnesses said they saw a tall black man in a gray hoodie running from the scene. No camera footage, no fingerprints, just panic pressure and a city desperate for an arrest. 3 days later, police found Terrence, a 29-year-old auto mechanic, driving home from a night shift. He had no record, no gun, and no connection to the victim, except one. He'd repaired Ortiz's car 6 months earlier. Detective Rick Hanlon said that was motive enough. The story they told was simple. Terrence robbed the store, Ortiz resisted, and Terrence shot him. They claimed the bullet came from a .38 revolver found near his property. Only Terrence didn't own a gun, and he wasn't near the store. At trial, the prosecution leaned on one thing: an eyewitness named Calvin Price, a neighbor who said he saw Terrence's face in the glow of a streetlight as he fled the scene. Under oath, Calvin said, "I'll never forget those eyes." But the jury didn't know that Calvin Price had been arrested 2 weeks earlier for possession, and that the charges mysteriously vanished the same week he testified. Terrence's public defender, overworked and underpaid, didn't ask why. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Verdict: guilty. Sentence: life without parole. When the cell door closed behind him, Terrence said it felt like time itself stopped breathing. For years, he lived in silence, eating, sleeping, existing. But every time lights flickered off in the prison library, he saw the same image. His mother in the courtroom, hands clasped in prayer, whispering, "They got the wrong man." It took 8 years for him to open a law book. The day he did, something shifted. He started with Missouri versus Fields, 1993, a case about suppressed evidence. Then Brady versus Maryland, 1963, the ruling that required prosecutors to disclose exculpatory evidence. Terrence didn't understand every word, but he understood the one thing that mattered. Someone was supposed to protect the truth, and they hadn't. Every night after his shift in the prison workshop, he'd spend hours in the law library, copying case notes by hand. Other inmates mocked him. Ain't nobody reading their way out of life. But he kept going. And then one night, a stack of old case files in the corner caught his attention. Documents inmates could request for legal research. He saw the name Hanlon scribbled in the margin of a disciplinary report from another case. It read, "Detective Hanlon's evidence collection methods under review." That was the same detective who'd built his case. Terrence filed a motion to request access to his old evidence logs. Denied. He filed again, denied. On his third attempt, he used a technicality from a Supreme Court ruling that forced the court to release chain of custody records for review. When the documents arrived, they were heavily redacted, but one page wasn't. It showed a firearms analysis report with the signature of a lab technician named Erica Daniels. The same gun linked to Terrence had been tied to another robbery 2 months later, one that happened while Terrence was already in custody. His heart stopped. He wrote Erica a letter, explaining who he was and what he'd found. Weeks passed before she responded. Her reply was short but devastating. "I remember that case. I filed a secondary report noting the ballistic mismatch. Detective Hanlon told me not to submit it, said it was a clerical duplicate. I still have my draft." Terrence nearly dropped the paper. Somewhere out there was proof. He contacted the Midwest Innocence Alliance. They were backlogged, but one volunteer attorney, Nia Grant, took an interest. She was 34, determined and blunt. "You don't have to prove you're innocent," she told him. "You have to prove the system lied." Together, through letters, calls, and slow-motion bureaucracy, they built the case. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. Calvin Price, the eyewitness, reached out from a rehab center. His conscience, like a wound that never healed, had opened in shaky handwriting. He confessed that Detective Hanlon had visited him before trial, promised him leniency, and shown him a photo lineup with only one face circled, Terrence's. The truth had been forced, shaped, and sold. When Nia filed for retrial, the DA's office fought back. They claimed Calvin's statement was unreliable, Erica's report unverified, and Terrence's evidence circumstantial. But the motion triggered something bigger, an internal review of Hanlon's career. Within months, investigators uncovered a pattern: altered evidence logs, coerced confessions, and 2 other wrongful convictions. The walls were finally cracking. In 2019, 18 years after his conviction, Terrence appeared in court wearing a prison-issued suit that hung loosely on his frame. The hearing room buzzed with reporters. The prosecutor read the new evidence aloud: the suppressed ballistics report, the eyewitness recantation, the signed memo that proved misconduct. Hanlon was subpoenaed but refused to testify, pleading the Fifth. When the judge finally spoke, her voice trembled just slightly. "Mr. Mitchell, you are hereby exonerated. You are free to go." Terrence didn't move at first. He just stared at his mother's empty seat. She'd passed away 5 years earlier. But in his mind, she was right there, whispering again, "They got the wrong man." Outside the courthouse, flashbulbs lit his face. "How does it feel to be free?" one reporter shouted. Terrence smiled faintly and said, "I've been free up here for a long time. The world just caught up." Detective Hanlon was later convicted of perjury and obstruction of justice. But Terrence didn't celebrate. He said, "I don't need revenge. I need reform." He spent his settlement money opening a nonprofit called Second Sight, teaching inmates how to research their own cases. "If the truth can't find you," he said, "you go find it yourself." And maybe that's what justice really is. Not the sound of a gavel, but the echo of persistence refusing to die. This is Justice Uncovered. Uncovering the truth, one case at a time. If this story moved you, share it with someone who still believes one person can't make a difference. Comment below, how many truths do you think are still locked behind bars? Subscribe to Justice Uncovered.